written by Professor Mustafa Anwar. I have to say though that I think that it's the assumption that Dr. Mustafa makes about there being more media freedom, more press freedom in Selangor because there is more media in Selangor is slightly flawed. I do not think for a minute that just because we have more media that automatically translates into having more media freedom. Neither does it translate into having more quality content, and neither does it translate into having more critical analysis. And I say this because I took a quick glance at Selangor Kini online and at www.tvselangor.com, and can I just see a show of hands how many of you actually have seen those websites or go to it fairly regularly, apart from the matric staff. There's just the matric side, yes. But I did go and have a look at it, and my caveat is that this is the first time I'm looking at it. I was looking at it because I was reading this chapter and trying to prepare for tonight's presentation. And so, I think it's really flawed to say that there is more media freedom, there's greater freedom for the media to operate, just because the Selangor government now has TV Selangor online and has Selangor Kini as a monthly publication as well as an online publication. And I say that because if you go to the online version today, what you have in a very central position on the homepage is a slamming of Barisan Nasional by Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim. And the title says, Pembohongan UMNO Bersola, with an exclamation mark. Now that isn't by any journalistic standards quality content. That to me is Pakatan Rakyat propaganda against its opposition, which is fine. I think that there is a space and there's a need for those kinds of expressions for certain. But then, there's to say that, there's more media freedom in Selangor because you have Selangor Kini online and tvselangor.com. And for me, it's a bit flawed because I think Anwar's commentary should be on his blog or on any of your other Pakatan Rakyat blogs. It shouldn't be passed off as some kind of quality media content. And in fact, if I were to be completely honest, it really seems to me that it is very top-down, and it's something that Dr. Mustafa himself mentions, that there isn't enough interaction, there isn't enough critical content on these sites. It is very much still about a government that finally has found itself in power and has found itself in a position where it can try and even out the scales in terms of getting more public spaces to put out its message. But does that translate into more media freedom? I don't think so. It definitely does not translate into more quality analysis out there. And I say this from a journalistic point of view. Perhaps the Selangor government isn't operating from that perspective. And maybe that's not your purpose. Maybe your purpose is to just put out more stuff about the Selangor government and what the PR government is doing. So then my suggestion would be, don't call it Selangor Kini, call it Selangor PR Kini, because that's what it is. Right? Because imagine if, for some of us, God forbid, if BN were to take over Selangor in the next election and they took over Selangor Kini, you're just going to have the direct opposite of what we have today, which is more BN propaganda. And I'm just wondering what's stopping the state from creating a platform where you really can have critical quality content that addresses not just what the Selangor government is doing, but also what the opposition is doing, that gives space to both the Selangor government and the opposition. Right now, I'm not seeing that on either Selangor Kini or on TV Selangor. And then, of course, Selangor government did a really wonderful thing by putting forward this Freedom of Information Bill, and I think it bears saying again, even though it's been said before. This, I think, has to be my greatest disappointment with the Selangor government, because as journalists, we were really looking forward to a Freedom of Information Bill. And then when the bill came out, it has like 6 missing ingredients. And these are international best practices. And I take my hat off to the Center for Independent Journalism for having done this research and for having put it out there, right? And here are the 6 international best practices that are missing from the bill. 1, maximum disclosure is not mandatory. 2, exemptions are not clearly defined. That means that the state can, without any clear definitions, decide that this piece of information I will not release. In any good piece of Freedom of Information Act, you need to have exemptions that are very, very clearly defined. On top of that, exemptions can be included without any kind of legislative intervention, meaning the state can just go ahead and do it and declare that, okay, this is off limits, it's off limits to the public. 3, there is no clause that protects whistleblowers. 4, there is no obligation for routine publication of, just the run-of-the-mill kind of information, the stuff that you see, for example, on the statistics department, the stuff that you see published at the Department of Environment's website. So there's no obligation on the state to do this routine publication. 5, it does not determine the cost of asking for information, and as we know, freedom of information, in order for it to work, needs to be cheap and it needs to be simple. Worse, it actually says that an individual can be fined 50,000 ringgit if you ask for information for one particular reason and you end up using that information for something else. You can be fined 50,000 ringgit. And also there's an issue about the appointment of the administrative oversight body, which is similar to the appointment system that is used in Suhakam, and we all know that there are problems with that. So my question is this. Actually, there is a draft bill that was prepared by civil society. It's an excellent piece of legislation. It was worked on by several groups. It was, prepared. They presented it to the Selangor government. And yet the Selangor government came up with a bill that is, really, really disappointing. My question to the Selangor government is, what stopped you? What stopped you from putting in place best practices? What stopped you from doing what civil society had already thought through for you, researched for you? All you had to do was to take best practices from this piece of bill and incorporate it. By not doing that, it suggests to me, and this is also an opinion that Sonia Randawa, who wrote a column for us about the problem with the Selangor bill, the assumption on the part of the Selangor government is that this information actually doesn't belong to the rakyat. It belongs to the people in power. Because if you believe that the information rightfully belongs to the rakyat, who pay taxes and who vote you in, then you wouldn't make it so difficult, and you would really, really ensure that there was maximum disclosure, for example. You would ensure that it would be cheap and simple for people to get that information. Right now, I think the underlying factor, or the underlying attitude is that actually we still want to hold on to the information now. But we promise we do a freedom